What is going on YouTube and Spotify? This is the Just BSN podcast, and today we have episode 86, and it is a somber uh, episode for us. Uh, last week when we were talking about the Cavs, they were down 0-2 to the Pacers, and since then they've been eliminated. The Cavs could not withhold or withstand the Pacers, even after a really good Game 3 performance. Ultimately, dude, the Indiana was just too much. They were relentless, and you got to give them credit where credit is due. They were relentless. Their conditioning was unbelievable, and it showed. And we just got outplayed. I mean, you can blame the injuries all we want, but at the end of the day, the Cavs were still healthy enough to go out there and play meaningful basketball, and they couldn't do it. They couldn't consistently do it. They had spurts and moments where they were be up by 20, and then the Pacers would come back and slowly start to dwindle it away, and then the Cavs would go 8 minutes without a basket, and it was just the third quarter was a very draining quarter for the Cavs throughout this entire series. So it's going to be a tough one to get through today, Drew. But how we doing after post here?
I mean, it's tough. I mean, I think I finally gotten over it. Just after letting it kind of sit for the last couple of days. But like you said, you can sit here and you can blame injuries all you want, or you can blame whatever you feel like. But it's just the fact that Rick Carlisle had that Pacers team energized, conditioned, mentally and physically tough. Like, that's what a playoff basketball team should look like. Like, that's a playoff basketball team.
Yeah.
And they show that it doesn't matter what happens in the regular season, because obviously they had a poor start to the season, like a very poor start. Like, they were awful. And then they got healthy because they started off injured in the season. They got healthy and they balled out, and they got to the playoffs and they're just decimating everyone. And to be honest, whoever makes it to the next round, whether it's the Knicks or the Celtics, which I'm pretty sure is probably going to be the Knicks, because now without Tatum, Brown, and Derek White and all those guys are going to carry a lot of the load, and I don't think they're just going to have what it takes to do it.
Yeah.
But this Pacers team is probably going to make the NBA Finals. And to be honest, whoever's coming out of the West, I don't really think they stand a chance against the Pacers, because we saw the West is not as physical as the Eastern Conference. And that Pacers team, man, they're probably gonna clobber anyone they see, especially the Knicks, because the Knicks are definitely not a physical team whatsoever. They are very unphysical. But yeah, you could blame the injuries to Garland, to Mobley, to Mitchell, to Hunter, but it's not gonna do you any good. There's so many times where, like in game 2, all you had to do is just get one freaking rebound, and the game's over. And you couldn't get one rebound, or all you had to do is just inbound the basketball properly. And if you inbounded the basketball properly, guess what? You win that ball game. And we'd probably be talking about going to a game 6, because then the series would be tied at this point 2-2, or we'd probably be now at a 3-2 Pacer lead going into game 6. But at least we'll still be talking about, hey, we got game 6 tomorrow, and maybe we could go into a game 7 and win a game 7. But no, we're 4-1, eliminated, gentleman sweep. And to be honest, we kind of deserved it.
Oh yeah, we 100% deserved it. It sucks, man, because it's a very, very wasted season for us. Especially after Tatum went down. It's very sad to see. Obviously, you see a lot of these injuries are happening more and more frequently, and I feel like the NBA needs to think about possibly getting rid of a few games during the regular season, just because the regular season really doesn't matter at this point. I mean, we said all year long, like, how we wanted to make sure we locked up the first seed so we had home court advantage. We lost all 3 games at home. So at this point, it doesn't matter what seed you are. It just matters, are you playing good ball at the end of the season, and are you mentally and physically prepared? And the Cavaliers were not in both facets. They shot so poorly in this series.
Yeah.
I think each game we shot the ball from three, it was like every stat line was like 9 of 32, 9 of 32, 8 for 31. Game 3 was a great game, and we thought that game was going to help us sort of get back in the series. And then game 4 happens, and they're down by 41 at halftime. And it's just like, where did this Cavaliers team go that was so dominant during the regular season? The guys that would just go on these massive runs and just do what the Pacers kind of did to us, where we would just sort of decimate them and really pick them apart and really just take the soul out of their basketball and just take it all in and blow these teams out. And honestly, I think a lot of the blowouts for us just didn't help us in the end, and it's going to suck now because, as Donovan Mitchell said at the end here yesterday, there's going to be a lot of talk this season. There's going to be a lot of talk in the offseason about, you can win as much as you can in the regular season. It means nothing until you get to the playoffs and until you actually prove it in the playoffs. And the Cavs just cannot get over the hump of the second round. And I don't know what's holding them back mentally, but they have to get over it. Even if that means starting to abandon ship on certain guys. And I'm going to get a little ranty here when I say this, but I really do wish that we didn't extend Jared Allen, because I think he is the guy that needs to go. He had 6 rebounds in the final 2 games. As a 7-footer, how can you have 6 rebounds in 2 games to an undersized Pacers team? It just makes no sense. He was a liability on defense because every time he was stretched out, guys like Tyrese, Turner, every single one of those guys would just dribble, create space, and knock down a 3 in his face every single time. And it was just so frustrating to watch. You couldn't even play him in basically the entire second half of the last game. And it's just frustrating too, because you saw Garland being hurt. And I know I was pretty hard on Garland last week. Not even really so much because he wasn't playing, but just because I knew that he had to play at that point, going down 2-0. Like you got to play now. You don't have a choice. You got to do something unless you're really, really, really hurt. And he was pretty banged up. We saw him being flashy all year long, and he didn't have any of that. He couldn't pivot. He couldn't plant his foot. He couldn't do shit. And I will still give the kid credit. He came out and played as hard as he could. I know he had a nice game 4, even though game 4 didn't really matter for us, but he tried. And Donovan battled it out too. He was beat up as well. And just a frustrating way to go out, truly. But now we are a second A-apron team with our cap situation. Even more so now because Mobley won Defensive Player of the Year, which means he is acclimated a bonus to his contract that he just received this past season. So we are in a bit of a financial funk right now, and the Cavs have got to get creative. They got to figure it out, and that may mean trading away guys, or at least 1 or 2 guys to help create some space and also try to help elevate this ball club, because, man, whatever we're missing, it's all really internal for me, and I wouldn't be surprised if they do just run it back with the whole squad. But Jared Allen's a guy that I am very, very, very cool with just wiping my hands clean of him and getting rid of him. He's a fun player to have. He's a great dude. I know he's super likable, but he's unplayable with Mobley. And I think if you really want to untap Mobley for good, you got to get rid of Jared Allen, just because Mobley has to get more focus in the paint. I mean, we started out game 5 feeding Mobley constantly, and really the big men in general. Like we were feeding them, and it was working. Then we got away from it. Mitchell started shooting threes and missing them. Mitchell didn't even hit a 3-pointer until like midway through the fourth quarter, and by then it was too little, too late. Ty Jerome had a god awful series until the final, or that little stretch in the fourth quarter there in Game 5. Other than that, Ty Jerome played a shit series after having a awesome first round, and really everybody having a good first round. It just, there's nothing really else to explain besides the Cavs got outplayed and they got out physicaled again. And it's just so frustrating as a fan to see. Like, this is what we've been saying since we lost to the Knicks in 23. And yet we are still dealing with this shit. And you just wonder when they're going to get it, because you can talk about it. You can say the things that Max Drew said after the season ended here. But you have got to be about it. You've been here long enough to where the mental game should not be the issue. You guys should know how to be resilient enough to get through these things. And Game 4 proved it. I mean, you saw it too. The Cavs were so flustered during Game 4. We had like 9 turnovers in the first quarter and a half. It was miserable to watch. I literally turned that game off just before halftime, and I didn't turn it back on because I knew that game was over. Just, I don't know, man. I'm over it, but I'm just so frustrated with saying the same things. And it's like it feels like we're talking about the Browns, but we're talking about the Cavs, who just had an amazing 64-win season. And it didn't mean shit again. And you just wonder when these guys are going to get it. And you wonder when they're going to get over this hump. If it's going to be like Boston, where that group took 7 years to get through and get over the hump to finally win. And you just wonder, A, how much patience the Cavs are going to have with that group, and B, if they can afford to have that patience with that group. Because the East is wide open, especially with Jason Tatum's injury. Boston could blow it up if they need to. Giannis could very well be on the move somewhere. And it would be pretty sick if we could find a way to get somebody like him. But the point is, the East is going to be wide open for the next year or even 2 years. So the Cavs have a window still, but they have got to figure it out, and they got to figure it out in this offseason, because after this next season, I really don't think they can afford to keep guys like Donovan or keep this core 4 going without somewhat blowing it up.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I do want to say this too. I know it was his first year as head coach, but you cannot blame Kenny Atkinson for this, because Kenny Atkinson was basically one of the main sole reasons why we were in a 64-win team, and why we were so successful. And he's coach of the year for a reason. Kenny could do. The thing is like, I know people love to blame head coaches for some reason, but they can only do so much. It's not like Kenny Atkinson could go on the floor for Jared Allen and go out there and get rebounds and stuff like that.
Exactly.
So, like, what do you want Kenny Atkinson to do? Like, he can't just go out there and play. So none of the blame should be towards. I mean, okay, a little bit of blame should go towards Atkinson, because obviously everyone deserves blame. Obviously, Kenny could do a little bit better to motivate the players a little bit.
His lineups were, a little weird, but at the same time, he's dealing with guys being hurt, foul trouble, all this other shit. Like, I get it.
Yeah,
it's a learning curve. Like, he's definitely going to learn. But yeah,
and this is his first time with this kind of squad, so he's learning what the guys could do. And now that he'll be in the second season, he knows these guys now. And like you said, we're in second apron right now. Us, and I think it is someone else. I think it's us and just Boston that are in the second apron. So us and Boston can't make any moves in reality. So it's almost we're forced to run it back with the same core, unless we get rid of a massive contract. Which obviously we're not going to get rid of Donovan Mitchell's contract. Right. So that's already off the table. And the way Donovan spoke at the end of the game against the after we got eliminated. It sounds like he wants more and he's back for more. And that he's already reiterated that he loves this city, he loves this team, he loves the arena, he loves the vibes. So what he said tells me he's not going to leave anytime soon.
No.
And what he said, basically, he says he believes in this team a lot more than he did in Utah.
Oh, he loves it here in Cleveland. Like, he loves the stadium. He loves the fans. Like, he really does love the city. So Donovan is not going to like force himself out.
No.
Garland isn't going to force himself out. If anything happens to those players, it's because the team themselves did it without their, approval or wanting to move. Like, that's not the case. Honestly, I don't think any of these guys want to leave.
No. Like, and the thing is like the reason why we were so successful is because of these guys' brotherhood.
Yep.
These guys are all so close to each other, and what Max Strus said in that locker room before Game 5, like, I loved it, and it showed me that he was probably a leader all season long that we didn't know about. And don't get me wrong, like, I know we got smoked after he said that. He said what he said.
He didn't make a single shot. He didn't even score a point after saying that. That's the meme about it.
But here's my thing about it though. Throughout this whole
played his ass off.
Throughout this Pacer series, he was one of our better players besides Donovan Mitchell. Besides Donovan Mitchell, he was basically our second best player on the floor.
He was 100% the more consistent player, I think, throughout the series.
Because he was playing really good defensively. He was getting steals. He was hustling. He was out hustling everyone on that floor. And he was probably the only one on the team who was actually making shots and who could actually make a shot. So, and again, there's not much blame can go around to guys like Donovan Mitchell, Max Strus. Obviously, Evan Mobley can't get blamed because Evan Mobley was just Evan Mobley. Darius Garland, I can't put much on him because I get it. He missed the first game or 2 games essentially, but he ended up actually trying, and I appreciate that he actually went out there, and he knew he was going to be limited in what he could do. And I know I know for him it was a lose-lose no matter what, because if he didn't play, everyone was going to hound him for not playing. Or if he did play, everyone's going to hound him for not playing well. And it's like, I get it. You're a couch potato who's never had any sports experience, but you can't hound a guy who basically has a broken toe, trying to make cuts, trying to do these insane dribble moves, and he ends up losing the ball, or he ends up not getting a correct jump shot off or whatever because his foot's all messed up. Like, at least he's out there doing something and trying. And he's helping, trying to put the team on his back. And there's a couple of games where he actually did just what he needed to and what we want him to do. Like, he got like 12 points and 4 or 5 assists. It's like, okay, he's done a decent bit in 30 minutes. So it was just, again, guys like Allen who just wasn't ready I just don't think Allen's a playoff caliber player. And Ty Jerome, who had a phenomenal series against Miami and had a phenomenal season altogether, just kind of crumpled and just showed how limited he was off the dribble and whatnot. And, don't get me wrong, I like him as a player. I think he's a great player. But I think he needs to learn how to create his own shot. He needs to learn how to not kind of panic when he's in a tough situation. He did start the comeback in Game 5. So I will give him that kind of credit because he ended up hitting, I think it was like 3 threes in a row to force the Pacers to call a timeout. And he brought us back within like 2 or 3 in that moment. So he did lead that comeback. But I also want to go back to what you said about kind of like the NBA eliminating some of these games towards the end of the season. I think what they should do is kind of do what the AHL does for hockey. Because if you look at what the AHL does for hockey, they make like the first round, like the first like 2 rounds, like a best of 5 series. And then they make like the conference finals and finals a best of 7. Or I think it's the first round's a best of 3 actually. And then they're kind of wild card is the best of 3. Then they go into like a best of 5, a best of 5, best of 7, and the championship games a best of 7. And I think the NBA can do that, so that way not every series is a best of 7. Maybe make like the first 2 series a best of 5,
Right.
so that way teams can rest a little bit longer, and then make the conference championship game, the Eastern Conference Championship or finals, whatever you want to call it, the best of 7. Then the NBA Finals, the best of 7. So that way you're not playing too many players. They're not playing every other night for 48 minutes. Because let's be real, when you're in the playoffs, every starter is probably going to be playing almost the entire time, and they will get injured. Obviously, prayers up for Jason Tatum, because as much as I hate the Celtics, seeing him go down like that is very, very difficult and very tough. And it was never deserved or never warranted. But that just shows you how much he cares about the game of basketball, and he plays his ass off every single day. But those things happen when you play every other night, especially with the travel, the lack of sleep these guys get after traveling and whatnot. It takes such a massive toll on their bodies. And that's why you see guys like Garland, all them getting injured all the time, because the way the schedules are is just, it's too hard on the human body. But like you said, it makes the East wide open now, because Tatum's done for the whole season next year. He will not step on the basketball court. So the East is wide open. I saw rumors of Giannis potentially going to Houston, because I know the Houston GM wants to pair him and Şengün together.
Yeah, I saw that.
Which I thought would be a nasty combo. I did see some Cavs fans want Jaylen Brown on the Cavs, which I was like, I wish if we weren't in second apron, but that's probably going to be a very difficult move unless you give him Jared Allen or something.
Yeah, people that want those types of moves to happen, I don't think really understand how the salary cap for at least basketball works, and how like you have to get from the second apron to the first apron in order to give yourself some more flexibility on the type of trades and stuff that you can do. So the Cavs have to figure that out.
Well, I saw the Cavs are $13.5 million over the second apron line.
Yeah, it's bad. Like we are like 30. I think we're like 33 million over the entire cap in general.
Yeah, we're 33 million over the entire cap. We're 13.5 million over second apron cap. So we would have to dump $13.5+ million of contract to even just make one singular deal. Just so I don't, like you said, I don't think people understand how this stuff actually works. These are just the fans who are the ones who are complaining that Kenny sucks, that Darius Garland sucks because he played with basically a broken foot, that Donovan Mitchell somehow didn't do enough. That these are the people who think they're good fans, just don't know how to fan, and just don't know jack at all about sports in general, or like how caps work or salary caps work, or how anything just in general works.
Exactly.
But hey, they know better than us apparently. So, but yeah, that's my kind of like little rant about it. I think the Cavs could have been a lot more physical. I think the Cavs could have been a lot more mentally prepared. And I just think that guys need to learn to step up and be ready to go when it's game time. Like you said, I don't think Allen prepared. It seems like he doesn't prepare for the postseason at all. Great regular season player, but awful in the postseason.
He's just too soft, man. Like he's too soft as a big man, and like you're seeing Mobley get more and more aggressive every year. He was taking at like he was going at guys. He was going at guys like Bam and Turner and all of these big guys. Like he was not scared this postseason. And again, when he has, I think it was like over 13 field goal attempts. He was pretty solid, and we were winning a lot of games in the postseason when he was doing that. Mm-hmm. You need to go into next season and actually commit to making Mobley the centerpiece to your offense and playing off of him. Mitchell and Garland, I love them both, but they get too caught up in iso ball because of how good they are off the dribble. And dude, I get that. You're going to have to get your own, but this Cavs team is always at their best when they center everything around Mobley and they they pass the ball around, and they do good things on offense, because then it helps do good things on defense.
Yeah.
That's the thing, is when you're on these one-on-one sort of ISO ball, LeBron ball is what I usually call it, type of plays, and then you brick threes. That's how the Pacers were able to get out and transition so much. And we kept saying, just drive to the bag, by basket. And if you make it, you're going to slow them down just by not getting them to run out and get into a flow state. And they were just constantly in a flow state. The only time they weren't was game 3. And it just, what a freaking frustrating series, and what a frustrating team to continue to try to believe in when they just can't get over them. They can't stop tripping over their own feet. Really, like, that's what the Cavs do. They trip over their own feet, and they sort of shoot themselves in the foot. And as a result, here you are. You were out of it again when you had a great chance to at least try to make a finals run. And now one of these teams that are going to go to the finals this year is going to be their first trip to the final, the first trip to the finals, and their first chance to get their first ring. Mm-hmm. So that's the only good part about this. That's good for the NBA, is regardless, you're not getting Boston, you're not getting Golden State, you're not getting the Lakers. The teams that are going to be here for this postseason run now, all of them are playing for their first trip to the NBA finals, and that's dope.
Yeah, I love that a lot.
So, to be honest, I made some predictions before the Pacers series, and obviously I was wrong. So a lot of Pacers fans were up my butt, and I get it. They're allowed to talk to crap, and I wasn't gonna try to even fight back on. I was like, yeah, man, like we got that ass beat. It's not even fair. But at this point, I'm almost kind of rooting for Pacers to win it all at this point, because I'm always a firm believer of, if you beat us, then go win the whole fucking thing. So we'll see how they do against the Knicks, or if the Knicks truly flop. Like, dude, if the Knicks flop this against Boston, that will be an even bigger meltdown than I think the Cavs losing to a good Pacers team. So it sucks. It's gonna sting for a little while, but it's how it goes, and it's sports at the end of the day. I mean, it's a bummer, but at least we got Browns to talk about now, so we might as well transition to that, which isn't really too much more
positive.
Yeah, it's much more positive to talk about. But the good thing is we haven't lost any games yet, bringing up for the season. So that's the good thing. And there was some good stuff going on last weekend. Obviously, the Browns had their rookie mini camp, which was very sought out after Sugar getting picked here. Having him and Gabriel sort of duke it out. You're seeing the running backs get their first glimpse of it, with them. Junkins looks awesome. By the way, everything I've seen from him, man, he looks like a young prime, like Kareem, like mixed with. I haven't found out yet who else he reminds me of, but it's a lot of that young Kareem that came out of Kansas City, out of Toledo. And you get your first glimpse at Graham. You get your first glimpse at some, other rookies, which the one guy that really sort of impressed me, Fannin, was definitely one too. And then that receiver we got from Kent State is intriguing to me. He's a white boy. He played really good at Kent State for like 5 seasons, so he was there for a while. But it's a good opportunity for an undrafted kid to try to make a roster on a team that desperately needs receivers anyway. So it's one of those things where it's like, if that kid works hard enough and he runs his routes well and he does well on, special teams and shit like that, like that's a kid that could make one of the final spots on, the roster. So just cool to, see that stuff. We saw the linebacker as well out of UCLA play. We obviously got news that Jock is going to be out for the 2026 season, which I think we all inevitably knew was going to happen. We didn't really expect him to be able to come back But it was nice for them to just go ahead and just make the choice to just shut him down. Let's see if he can, get better. And if he doesn't, then he'll probably have to retire, which would be awful. But again, you gotta, you still gotta respect the kid, and you gotta make sure that kid is going to have a normal life outside of football. And I know the Browns are going to try to do what they can. But yeah, man, first impressions on rookie minicamp. I know there was a lot of talk about Shedeur. It sounded like he pretty much outplayed Gabriel in a sense. And he looked pretty crisp and pretty confident and pretty loose, to be honest, with at least some of the clips that I saw in the 7-on-7s. I know they did a couple 11-on-11s, obviously no contact, but still got a chance to sort of get out there and just sling the rock, and he looked pretty good.
Yeah, no, I thought he looked really good as well. I think this is exactly why you drafted him. And again, the fact that you got him for a 5th-round value is insane in the first place. So the fact that they didn't even have to pay him much to begin with, and he's probably going to be your future franchise quarterback, is absolutely crazy to be in so many ways. But no, I think this QB battle between him and Dylan Gabriel is going to be a very good QB battle because, again, given Gabriel's height, like just looking at all like the little tapes that everyone's been sending in on Twitter from the mini camp, is that both QBs are throwing really good balls. And I was like, oh my God, we actually have 2 rookie QBs who are going to battle out. They're actually decent. And one's not like way above the other. Like, this could be a very good close QB competition. And honestly, you might be able to just keep both in a sense, to have Shedeur be like QB1 and even have Gabriel be QB2. And it'd be that nice feeling if, hey, Shedeur got injured, you still feel confident in Gabriel to get the job done. And it's like, wow, that's kind of a refreshing feeling just to have 2 guys who could come into this room and really make it so much better. So the fact that both of them are performing well, obviously the reports on Shedeur looked a little bit better than Dylan Gabriel, but both looked really good. That's a very positive sign coming from the Browns camp, saying that both are looking excellent. So that's a massive positive in the Browns community, is that 2 rookie QBs look amazing. So that's a mega positive for us. But like you said, guys like Harold Fannin looks great. That I think his name is Luke Floria, the Kent State kid. I don't know where the hell he came from and whatnot, but he looked amazing too. I mean, I keep seeing videos of the back shoulder touchdown pass that Sanders threw to him in the end zone, and he just turned around and made that catch. I'm like, oh my God, is this guy gonna be like a wide receiver too for Jerry Jeudy or something? Because this kid looks like like a good wide receiver. I was thinking, he's like, oh my God, Kent State can actually produce a football player.
Hey, listen. Not the first time they have. They've had quite a few guys from Kent State come out and play well. Listen, even some Hall of Famers. Okay, come on now.
I had to throw a little dig in.
Jeez. I know the football team sucks, but come on. Jeez.
Yeah, I don't know what sucks worse, the football team or the stadium, but
yeah, for real though, Dick Stadium was. I mean, it used to be cool. It used to be cool, like when we were in Pee Wee. We used to always play at least one game there. That was always tight because it was the first time you would play on turf. So, I mean, it's cool, but the weather would always suck every time we got to play.
Honestly, I would take the Rubber Bowl in its current state over Dick Stadium.
Yeah, for real.
It's rough out there. And the Rubber Bowl is completely torn down now. But
yeah, no, trust me, I know. I drive by it a lot.
Yeah. So, but no, Kent State has produced obviously Josh Cribbs and a couple of notable Super Bowl winners,
and James Harrison.
Yeah.
Name a few.
Dude, I still remember the time where I was a kid because I still have the chain from going to the 2006 camps or whatever. And I remember as a kid, I was like, I watched Charlie Fry at Akron a lot because obviously my house is right right next to the Rubber Bowl. So me and my dad would always like walk to games or whatever. And I loved Charlie Fry. Like I love Charlie Fry at Akron. I was like, I hope the Browns draft Charlie Fry. And then the Browns drafted him. And I was so geeked. And that's why my dad took me to like the Browns like training camp. So I could go and see Charlie. I got like a little mini football signed by Charlie Fry too at the training camp. And I got it signed by like a couple other players too. I think it was all the QBs at the time. So it was like Derek Anderson, Charlie Fry. So I got like all the QBs to sign it a little bit, and yeah, it was a dope time for 10-year-old Drew.
Oh, dude, I almost forgot too. I also met Josh Cribbs before he even got drafted.
Yeah, I did too.
So yeah, I was like,
I met him before he got drafted and like a couple months afterwards because he was at the Talmadge Rec Center one time signing autographs or whatever.
Yeah.
And so we saw him there, met him there. So that was a dope time for young us.
God, the Talmadge Rec Center, dude. My dad had a lot of soccer games.
So did I. That's why I played all my indoor games.
Oh yeah, dude. I used to love indoor more. Honestly, I used to like indoor more than I liked outdoor. Hot take. I used to love indoor soccer, like indoor soccer. I think it was just because I used to like to use the walls as just like a volley to sort of help dribble around guys, and I used to play goalie a lot, so it was fun.
Yeah. But yeah, no, going back to the camp, I think the Browns camp is actually the rookie mini camp is fun to watch, at least for the Browns, because the guys that we have look amazing. Both running backs look amazing. I mean, I was like, wow, we actually have some rookies that are good.
Yeah, we have some players that can play.
And I know Mason Graham had a time where he threw up and whatnot, but obviously going for a step from college to the NFL is obviously different. But he still looked solid. He still looked good. And I know people see what happened to him and they're like, oh my God, he's weak. He's a baby. And it's like,
he's probably just going fucking hard as shit and threw up.
I was like, well, and a lot of Michigan fans said that too. They're like, I know you guys don't know who Mason Graham really is, but we've watched him like practice at Michigan and stuff like that. This kid trains harder than anyone ever has. And they said he's done it like multiple times at Michigan where he's trained so hard that he threw up and stuff like that. So I was like, it's probably just because he's a hard worker. So
I mean, plus it's the first like official like camp workout he's had. I mean, you can do as much working out as you can, but it doesn't really prepare you for what camp will bring you. I was gonna bring this up, so I'm glad you did, because obviously there was a lot of people that were saying a lot of dumb shit about it, like, oh man, he's gonna be a flop. It's like, you guys know nothing. Shut up. Like you don't know what this kid's gonna do. And not to mention, especially for this year, I don't think he's gonna be a 3-down tackle for us. No. And honestly, he may not even start the season as a starter. Like he may have the vets go in front of him. There's a reason that we brought in some vets this offseason. So, it's fine between him and Mike Hall. Like, that's the duo that I'm really excited to see on third downs. Having those two mixed in with Garrett and like Alex Wright and that kid from Tampa Bay who I keep fucking forgetting his name.
Tryon something. I forget the last part of his name.
But it's that part is going to be exciting. The defense I think is going to take a step above what it was last year. I think some of the guys that we brought in are going to do better. It's just whether or not they're going to be able to stay healthy. Like, that's been the big thing for the Browns over the last few seasons that has really sort of derailed what they have been doing so well. And it's just going to come down to QB play, which sort of brings me into my next topic here. So now that we're sort of through mini camp, we're going to have OTAs pretty soon. Like, I know it's going to come up probably, I think, sometime late May or June, I think. So, next thing we know, it's going to be July, and the next thing you know, it's going to be 2 days, mini camps, and then next thing you know, the preseason starts in August. So, we're in May. This shit's going to fly quickly. Like, it's 3 months away, and it's going to fly by fast. The offseason always flies by so quick for me.
especially after the draft, process and stuff. I feel like that takes longer than it does to get through the summertime and get into football season. So, that being said, that the Browns' schedule did just get released yesterday, or as in everybody's schedule got released yesterday. So I want to bring it up and just kind of list our opponents in weeks that we have. Obviously, we've known who we were gonna play for a little while now, but the official schedule in the weeks in which we are playing guys is out. So we start out the season against the Bengals, which is not a shock. Typically, we start against a divisional opponent like every year. So you go Bengals, Ravens, and then you're going to the NFC. What is it? The NFC East is Packers. So you got the Packers, the Lions.
I think the Packers are NFC North.
Whatever it is.
Yeah.
Packers, Lions, Vikings, which is the game in London. So that will be week 5.
Mm-hmm.
And then you come back and play the Steelers in Pittsburgh. Come back home to face the Dolphins week 7, week 8 away at New England, and then you have your bye week. And then you got the Jets, the Ravens at home, Raiders, 49ers, and Titans back-to-back at home. The Bears away, the Bills home, Steelers home, and then finish with the Bengals. No primetime games for us this season, which honestly I'm pretty glad. I don't want us to be on national television making a fool of ourselves any more than we probably will this season. But this first half of the season before we hit this bye week is going to be absolutely brutal. I mean, you're facing off at 2 divisional opponents back-to-back, and some of them more tougher divisional opponents, because personally I think the Steelers are going to suck with a capital S this year, because they still don't have a legit quarterback one. Like, it's probably going to end up being Will Howard that starts at some point for that team. So, yeah, the Bengals, Ravens, obviously, but then you get to play the Packers, who obviously are a pretty solid team. They're going to run the ball very well. They have a solid defense. Jordan Love's good enough quarterback. They're going to get it done, although it is at home, so that's going to be our only benefit. And then you go away against the Lions. And this is where the games start to get rough, because you're on the road against the Lions, and then you play a home game in London, which is going to suck for us because the Vikings are going to be in London the week prior. So they're going to be in London for 2 weeks. Yeah. So they're going to have the advantage already. And then you got to come back home, and instead of playing at home, you got to play in Pittsburgh, and then you get to have your home game against Miami, and then you wait. Those first 8 weeks are going to be brutal, and some buddies of mine were joking how they were like, we may win two games before the bye week. That's how rough it could very well be. But my question to you is, what part of this season do you think is when we're going to start hearing the rumblings or even seeing one of these, rooks start? Because it is inevitable that one of the rookie quarterbacks will start for this team at some point in the season. Mm-hmm. But it's kind of funny to try to pinpoint where it's going to be. And I have my take, but I want to hear yours first, and then I'll speak mine. But go ahead.
So my thought is I think it's going to happen week 12 at Las Vegas, just because I do think you're going to have Joe Flacco play the first 8 weeks just to have a veteran playing to keep the games close and to at least to make the games more, not just enjoyable for us to watch, but again, make the games close enough to where your defense can make an impact. Your offense, you as an offensive team, offense can make some kind of impact, and at least try and win some of these games or try to upset some of these games. Because again, it's a very ugly schedule to start the year, especially with the traveling to London right off the rip, essentially. And then you come back and play at Pittsburgh, at home, and then at New England before you even have a bye week. So I think Joe Flacco goes until, I would say, week 10, week 11, just in case if you do have a record that's similar to 500, But if it's what we suspect, and you lose a lot of those games in the first part of the season like that, I think once you get to Las Vegas, a team who's probably on the same competence level as you, I think that's when you can start throwing in maybe like Shador to see how he can handle like an NFL game, um, and see where you can go from there. Because even San Francisco's taken a massive downturn. Um, Looking at Tennessee, obviously Tennessee, like those are the easier games coming up would be like the Raiders, the 49ers, the Titans, the Bears. Those are games where you could probably test out your rookie quarterbacks and see what they can do and give them those stretches before you obviously play the Bills, the Steelers, and the Bengals again. But I think a lot of it is depending on record coming out of the bye week. Like I said, if you win like maybe like 3 games at most up into the bye, then I can see maybe even just a week after the bye week is when you start throwing him in just to give him some work and see what they can do for half a year. But if you're close to a 500 record, I think you have to roll with Flacco as long as you can and see what the season entails.
So here's my 2 takes. And the first take I don't necessarily agree with, but I think it could very well happen, is first things first, I actually have a gut feeling that it's not going to be Flacco that's starting. It's going to be Pickett that starts the season.
Okay.
And that is something I don't want to happen. I would much rather prefer Flacco. So let me make that clear. But I think there's just something to be said about them. Like that was the first move that they made was getting Pickett. And although all of us can agree he's probably last on the totem pole, I think he's the one guy that the Brown staff really wants to get a good look at, because they know what they're going to get with Flacco. Like you're really not going to get too much more than you have in the past.
Yeah.
You know what Flacco is, and I honestly won't be surprised if Flacco doesn't even really play that much in the preseason at all.
Yeah.
It's good. It's going to be Pickett, and it's going to be the rookies, 100%. So that's my first take. My second take is, and this is where I think one of the rookies happens. I think it is going to be Week 7 versus the Dolphins at home, or it's going to be fresh off the bye week there for that game against the Jets. But I don't think they're going to put a rookie into a position where he's going to have to, let's say, go to London and then come back in Pittsburgh and play that game or something like that. Or, after the Lions game, they wouldn't just switch over and go to London and then start a rookie. Like, I just don't see that being the case. I don't see the Browns giving up quite easily on that. But it just depends on whether it's Flacco or Pickett, how rough they are playing. If they're not exceeding, really any sort of expectation that they've had, it's not going to really bode well for them, and the Browns are going to be forced to really play the rookies anyway. But I think the other intriguing part about this whole quarterback room is that it's entirely wide open. Like, you really don't have a definitive starter named right now. Like, there's nobody that's going to be named basically until right before Week 1, especially knowing Stefanski. His ass is going to keep it under wraps, not saying a word, not giving up any sort of hints of who he's going to start until it's going to be the week of, or he's going to wait till Saturday and be like, oh yeah, we're going to start Flacco on Sunday. Like, it's going to be interesting, but it's also like, who are they going to keep and who is going to get released / traded? Because if they're carrying 4 QBs, they have done this quite frequently over the last few seasons, where they've carried 4 QBs and they've traded one for a 5th or a 6th round pick and then call it a day. They've done that for the last 2 or 3 seasons now with Dobbs, with Huntley, and I know they've done it with somebody else as well. So the point is, that part isn't shocking. Watson's going to get shut down, so there's not 5 guys in the room. Like, that's not going to happen. But you do need to see what you have with one of these rookies at some point. And I really do hope that the Browns don't hold back on starting Shador if he proves that he is better than Gabriel and better than what Pickett or Flacco can do. Even if that means starting in Week 1. If Shedeur does prove that he is a better quarterback and prepared enough to say, you know what, let's start in week 1, then do it. Do it. You have nothing to lose this season. All you have is to gain. All you have is to gain the knowledge of what you're going to do for next season. Because you know you're getting ready to set yourself up for potential for not 1, but 2 top 10 picks right now. Because the Jaguars are not going to be a good team this year. I'm telling you now. They're going to suck again. And I saw their schedule as well. Rough. Not as rough as ours. I think we have like one of the worst schedules in the league.
Yeah, I think we're like top 4. Yeah.
I think we're like 2 or 3, dude. It's bad. Like we have like our strength of schedule is top notch. So if the Browns can win any more than like 5 or 6 games, that is a W in my book. Okay. And it's going to be tough because you know what's going to happen is the Browns are going to be in some of these games that they have no business being in, and it's going to come down to the final, 5 minutes of a game, and then they're going to lose it. That's how this season's going to go. So I want Browns fans to also be prepared. Prepare your heart for what's going to happen because the Browns are going to be in games because of their defense, and they're not going to be able to close it out because they don't have a competent quarterback yet. But on the flip side, if Shedeur ends up playing well, or if Gabriel comes out and slings the rock and plays well, it gives you at least a vote of confidence saying, okay, we don't have to get a quarterback unless we're getting the number 1 pick in the draft. Then you're like, okay, you can afford to take that. So the Browns are in a unique position and they know that. Just curious as to your thoughts on the whole idea of just having this open quarterback sort of room where there's no definitive starter. It's literally anybody's game right now. Anybody can win this job from now until the end of the preseason with week 1.
I like it, to be honest with you, because having this open of a QB competition means that you have 4 QBs who are ready to go, who can fight, and I like that the fact that like any one of them can start day 1.
Yeah,
because it just shows you how good and competitive this QB room is, and we probably haven't had that since the Brian Sipe days or the 90s when we had Bernie Kosar. So like we probably haven't had this kind of clutch of a QB room in decades. So the fact that we have one now screams volumes. And I looked it up. The Browns have the 3rd toughest schedule in the NFL after having the toughest schedule last year. So we just kind of keep getting screwed by the NFL when it comes schedule wise. That's okay. But like you said, this is anyone's job at this point. I know OTA started at the end of the month for the Browns because I looked it up. We have OTAs, I think it's like the 25th or the 28th. And then it's again like the 2nd week of June or something, or like the 3rd week of June. There's like a couple of days in there that are OTAs as well. So we're going to really see a lot what happens in OTAs. I'm more excited to see what happens in the pads once we get to start the practice, because that's going to be very telling of the QB situation is when they start actually getting hits and they actually have to play kind of like game-like situations. But like you said, if Shedeur is the best QB that comes out of camp, I think he has to start day 1.
Yes. Yeah.
Even if it's Gabriel, if Gabriel's the best quarterback that walks out, start him day 1. If it's Pickett, start him. If it's Flacco, start him. Whoever is the best QB in OTAs and training camp and whatnot, then that's got to be the guy that starts day 1, no matter who it is. So it's going to be very telling what happens once we start putting the pads on. It's going to be very telling what happens when training camp and OTAs happen. But I like having this open of a QB room because it's anyone's game and it tells you have a very competitive room. And I'm sure Kevin Stefanski loves it because it makes it difficult for him to decide. The only thing I'm worried about is the same thing that you did to DTR last season, and the season prior is when you kind of put him in those crappy situations where you didn't know who was going to start. And then the day of, like an hour before the kickoff, you're like, oh, yeah, by the way, we're going to have DTR start. And you tell DTR that like an hour before, like, hey, buddy, you're going to start. I know you didn't really read much of the playbook, but hey, go out there and play the Baltimore Ravens, son.
Right.
You have an hour to prepare for the Ravens. And he's like, no.
Right.
Like, that's the only situation I'm worried about is that they do that to one of the rookies. Like, hey, Flacco can't go or Pickett can't go, man. Like, I know we have an hour till kickoff when we play the Ravens, but hey, do you one of you want to go out there and just kind of start and play? Like, what do you mean? We have an hour till kickoff. You could have told me a week ago that I was going to be start so I could prepare a little bit better. You give me an hour.
Yeah.
So that's my only worry because that's a very Browns thing to do, is to throw someone right under the bus immediately. But I think whoever, like we said, whoever performs the best in camp, that's got to be the guy that starts. So I know people are really riding high in Shedeur, but hey, if Dylan Gabriel outperforms Shedeur, then Gabriel's got to be your number one.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
So at this point, the QB competition goes to the best QB. So who knows? You could have the order of Kenny Pickett, Gabriel, Shedeur, and Flacco as like the four, as like the top, as like that's the order.
Right.
Which would be weird and funny, but hey, that's the way the cookie crumbles sometimes, man. Hey,
Right.
if Kenny Pickett was the best QB in camp, that's the guy that's got to start.
Exactly.
So I like having an open quarterback room because, like I said, it makes the competition better because it makes all four quarterbacks actually try really hard, knowing I have a chance to start day one. So I'm going to work my butt off every single day to be that number one starter. So it's going to make it really, really interesting because I'm sure guys like Kenny Pickett and Flacco are like, it's going to be one of us two. Like, and they're probably going to play it nonchalant and be like, it might be just one of us. Actually, Kenny Pickett might work a lot harder than Flacco because Kenny Pickett still wants to prove himself as an NFL quarterback, as a NFL QB worthy quarterback. So he might work a lot harder. I mean, at this point, Joe Flacco might be the odd man out. And especially too with his age, it's more than likely he might be the odd man out because in reality, who wants a 40-year-old quarterback? Not many teams. So again, it's an open and honest quarterback room. Whoever wins the job, hey, I'm rooting for that guy, whoever it is, no matter what. If it's Shedeur, if it's Pickett, if it's Gabriel, as long as they show up and they do the job, hey, I'm cool. I'm not going to sit there and be bitter like, oh, Kenny's starting, ew. Or like, oh, Shedeur starting, ew. Or Gabriel, ew. Like, I'm not going to sit there and this is my football team. I'm going to root for him no matter who the starter is. So it's going to be fun. I'm ready for OTAs in the next 2 weeks. I'm ready for the pads to get it on. I'm ready for these guys to work. And I just want to see all four quarterbacks throw really good balls during training. And I just want to see them work hard. That's all I care about is I just want them to work hard and just show that, hey, next year, we're going to be a team that fights. And that's going to be playoff competitors once again. And I don't know if you saw, but they set the Browns win total on like the betting sites and whatnot.
Like 4.5.
4.5. So listen, I'll smash the under. I'm just kidding. I'm not going to smash it. But I mean, hey, if you have a bad season and so does Jacksonville, I'm cool with two top 10 picks.
And that really is the draft to have top 10 picks too, because that's going to be the better draft. Like
that's
overall.
when you get the Jeremiah Smith coming out, and you got top two
quarterbacks.
Yeah, quarterbacks. You got Arch Manning.
Downs is going to be in that draft too.
Yeah.
Like there was going to be a lot of good players in next year's draft, and that's why like there wasn't a whole lot of hype in this past draft for a reason, because it just wasn't
a good draft class.
Up. But that's why like we are so excited about the guys that we did get, because we're like, hey, these guys
are actually
good. Some of our favorites. Like these are guys that we thought were going to be terrific. So, you know, I'm excited to see what some of these guys can do, especially these running backs. And then the linebacker as well. I'm really sad about it. Obviously, Fannin. I mean, Fannin was like my favorite guy that we got here.
Dude, he's a stud.
Yeah, I can't wait. Like him and Njoku, it's going to be fun to see how Stefanski decides to split them out and if they want to play them together, because I think that is going to be something freaky if they try to put a guy like Fannin in the slot and have Njoku still in his usual spot, or have him outside and then have Fannin inside, or vice versa. You could do a lot with those guys, and that is going to help with the lack of production that you could not get from receiver, especially if the receiver core isn't going to perform as well, because that's going to be another room that's going to be wide open. So yeah, I'm too excited to see these guys in pads. I'm really excited to see Shedeur, mainly when he has a defense in front of him, when he has the ability to try to read the defense and see what they're giving him and how he reacts to it and how quickly he reacts to it. I know that we talked a little bit about Gabriel being a guy that is pretty quick with his decisiveness, but he's not a big guy. Like, Gabriel is small, and he throws the ball kind of like Baker did, just as a lefty, but you can tell he doesn't have as much on it as a guy like Shedeur, or at least he has to put more on it to do what Shedeur can do. Like, there's a clear difference in the arm talent there. So it's just going to come down to smarts, and it's going to come down to, how willing the Browns are going to be starting one of these guys, or even both at some point this season, because I think you got to find out either way. But fun thing is we'll get to see everybody play in the preseason. That's going to be fun. But like having a preseason where we know we're going to see everybody, but probably Flacco. And I'm sure we'll even see Flacco. Honest to God, we probably will.
I'm sure we would too.
Because again, it's a wide open room, and I know it's not fun to not know who your guy is going to be, but it's exciting because it gives you something to look forward to. And as a Browns fan, knowing the season is going to be rough, that's not a bad thing, especially if you could very well end up on Hard Knocks, which I think could very well happen just because of Sanders being here. So we'll see how the rest of this offseason goes. But yeah, that's pretty much all I got for today. I know the Guardians are off today. Not really too much going on. They just won another series. So they're
crushing it.
Yeah, I mean, they're cruising. They're not playing like the greatest ball, but they're winning games. I think they're like the first wild card team right now.
Yeah,
currently, because Detroit's still up by like 3 or 4 games on us. Detroit's the best team in the AL right now.
Yeah, Detroit's 3.5 up on us. But yeah, the Guardians are playing phenomenal ball right now. They're as long as they're winning series, they're doing their job.
Yep.
Corey Kluber joins the clubhouse now as a assistant coach to Carl Willis. So that's exciting news because that's going to help Luis Ortiz out a lot, and especially Gavin Williams, who had a great day yesterday until the bullpen blew it up for him. But me and Sean were talking at that game yesterday, and we're thinking that Kluber might take Tanner Bybee as like a personal project to try and turn him into a Cy Young Award winner. So that would be exciting to see if that happens too. But yeah, all in all, the Guardians look good as long as they stay a couple of games back of Detroit. When we get guys like Shane Bieber back, and Chase Dillard just hit a 465-foot home run in Arizona today, so that's a positive sign. But guys are coming back from injury. That's a massive sign for us. David Fry's been in Arizona hitting balls. Slade Ciccone just pitched like 3 games in Columbus lately, and he's looked really good in those games. So guys are coming back, and this is really going to elevate the Guardians again to catch up to Detroit. And as of right now, I think the Guardians in the American League are the 3rd best team in the American League, or the 2nd best team they're the 3rd best American team, our league team. And then all together in the entire MLB, we're like 5th or 6th best in baseball. So not too bad for a team that's injury riddled. The starters haven't been producing a lot. Obviously, again, the bullpen's been immaculate still, which has been helping a lot. But the Guardians are starting to score more runs again, and the guards ball has been guards balling. So I'm excited to see what this team does. I'm excited to talk about them a little bit more now as the Cavs season dwindled away and we need more positivity, and the Guardians will provide a little bit more positivity for us.
Absolutely. They will. So that'll be fun to talk more about them for now on, for sure. But all right, guys, that is going to do it for us. We will obviously see you guys next week with some more Guardians talk, and we'll see if there's any more Browns news. But I think we'll try to stick it to Guardians, and then we'll obviously keep still locked on just basketball in general. We'll just kind of keep up and see how everything's going. But mainly Guardians for a little bit. Hopefully some positivity and some better vibes because today was not the greatest. But with that being said, we'll see you guys next time.